What's going on, y'all? It's the kid J Nolan here. Before I get into any information on this video, go ahead and hit the like and share button for me, man. This is how YouTube gets the content in the algorithm, so just do me a favor like that, man. If you support me and support what I'm talking about, do that. Now that we got that out the way, I want to go ahead and give a congratulations to the LSU Tigers women's team winning the national championship in the NCAA. Shout out to Angel Reese. Shout out to Flajay. I did everything that needed to be done. And in this video, I want to address some of the criticism that's going on around Angel Reese. People are talking about how she's classless. She's a piece of S. People are saying that she looks ghetto or hood, you know what I mean? Because she reflects the style of the average Black American woman in the United States. So I guess that's how y'all view Black women, period. We're going to get into the whole Dave Portnoy situation. I'm also going to get into Gillie and Wallo's response to what he said about Miss Angel Reese. And we're going to address all of those things here in this video today. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Throughout the entire NCAA March Madness tournament on the women's side, there were three primary players that everybody was talking about, okay? You had Angel Reese, you had Hailey Van Lith from the Louisville team, and you also had Caitlin Clark for Iowa, all right? Two out of those three are young white women. They were being praised by the NCAA. They were being praised by basketball media. They were being praised by basketball fans in general. And absolutely, they were worthy of that. They put up amazing numbers. They had amazing games. Caitlin Clark is still probably the top prospect in all of women's basketball at this point. Stephen A. Smith even projected that she may very well go down in history as one of the greatest female basketball players ever once she has her career in the WNBA. He calls her the female Steph Curry. Whatever, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? If you go out and you put buckets up, you play hard, you earn your ranking, there's nothing wrong with that. However, like I said, two out of those three were white women. Then you have Angel Reese, who's putting up comparable numbers to those other two athletes. However, throughout her entire process of her just being herself, as she stated herself, she does not fit into the narrative. They say that she's too hood, she's too ghetto. They don't like that she wears lashes. They don't like that her edges are laid. But they have no problem with Hailey Van Lith rocking French braids. Hailey Van Lith wears a ponytail and be having her edge control in too. But nobody wants to say nothing about that. Why she don't get criticized for acting Black? You know what I'm saying? A lot of times, these young white women that are intrigued by hip-hop culture, that are intrigued by young Black women, they appropriate, they assume the image and assume some of the things that are popular amongst our culture. They do the same thing. We embrace them, and the world embraces them at large without any pushback. And I'm not even going to be here to say that she should. But if you're going to call it on one person, you got to keep it even with the next. They're doing the same exact thing. They're in the same collegiate league, and they're competing against one another. Now, on to Caitlin Clark. She's a very fired up basketball player. You know what I'm saying? She became infamous throughout the NCAA tournament for the whole "you can't see me" thing. There's a whole nother debate going on around that between who came up with that first, whether it was John Cena, Tony Yayo. We all know it was Yayo first, but clearly she is an expert in talking trash. You know what I'm saying? She likes to taunt her opponents just like so many other athletes do in their respective sports. Nobody ever says that they're classless pieces of ass. The only time I've ever seen an athlete be disrespected or disparaged for their emotion on the field or the court or being criticized or outcasted for their celebrations is when Black people do it. Nobody ever says anything about white folks. When Tim Tebow had to take a knee on every goddamn play before every goddamn game and on every goddamn touchdown, it was seen as the standard to where other people started doing the same thing. Everybody celebrates in their own way and it should be respected. If the refs ain't calling techs for this stuff, then you gotta let it fly, because that's truly where the game is played, is between the lines. And if the ref doesn't evaluate and determine it to be excessive, which they have the authority to do so, then leave it alone. But of course, when it comes to Angel Reese, that entire narrative gets flipped, because you see Flajay come into the court with a chain on. Y'all want to say she's hood. It seems like all of these different narratives, all these different angles and perspectives are more so diminishing the fact and overshadowing the fact that they just won the national championship. It's even so bad that Jill Biden invited both teams to the White House when typically the winning team is the one that gets the invitation. All of a sudden, now they want to give out the, "oh, you played a great game too, so all of y'all should come" type of commencement. No, that's not how it's been. That's not how it should be. And if it was supposed to be that way, then that would have been the legacy. That would have been the tradition at this point. And that's the whole thing, right? The inconsistency, the idiosyncrasies, man, all of this stuff that's not making sense when a group of young black women are successful in their field and they're not being meek, humble, quiet about their accomplishments. Because when so many others do the same, just look at people like Jake Paul, Jake, Logan, both of those clowns. They're some of the most popular people, not only on YouTube, but on the planet for doing nothing absolutely special. They're just white guys on YouTube that have a following. They do some athletic things, but they're not the most athletic people in the world. They're not the strongest motherfuckers on the planet, not the best boxers on the planet, not the smartest people on the planet. And I'm not saying this to disrespect either one of them. I don't know enough about them or their content or their actions, to be honest. But I'm just saying they're amplified and magnified on a different level to the fact that they can even be in the same sentence as somebody like a Floyd Mayweather who dedicated 30 years to the sport of boxing, dedicated 30 years plus years to athletics and being an athlete. And not to mention the fact that trash talk is elevated in all of sports, right? We revere all the trash talkers, right? We revere the Draymond Green, Michael Jordan, Russell Westbrook, Larry Bird, Kevin Garnett, right? We got this Dylan Brooks guy who everybody's following, and his mouth is way bigger than his game, right? We follow Pat Beverly, another player whose mouth is much bigger than his game, but he keeps getting contracts everywhere that he goes, you know what I'm saying? So now all of a sudden, I mean, even Hailey Van Lith and Caitlin Clark were both revered for trash talking. But now all of a sudden when Angel Reese does it, you know what I'm saying, it's a problem. Now it's being classless. Now it's hood, ghetto, not respecting the game. Overall, it's just diminishing and taken from the fact that these young ladies just won the national mother effing championship, had the most viewed women's basketball game of all time. Matter of fact, let's put that in bold print for the people to see. So clearly it worked. Clearly the marketing was done right. Clearly all of the controversy, all of the rivalries, all of the heated debates were needed in order for this to add to the spectacle, because that's what women's basketball is really missing. That's the reason why the WNBA, or one of the reasons why the WNBA doesn't have the support that they're supposed to have, right? That's why a player like Angel Reese, who would be the #1 prospect after winning the national championship, decides, I'm going to stay at LSU instead of going to the WNBA, because she actually said she's going to make more money next year staying at LSU off the NIL contracts than she would from a WNBA contract. What you think that's for? Because there's more tradition, there's more rivalries. The March Madness and the national championship, all of that gets way more coverage than the actual professional league. You have the benefit of alumni, people that attended the same school. They're going to support their school forever. You know what I'm saying? So there's a support base that's already built in, and WNBA teams are missing that. Hopefully with Tom Brady's inclusion out there in Vegas and purchasing part of the team, hopefully that brings more attention to the game. Hopefully they can start figuring out how to invest, how to get those partnerships, how to get everything in order for the WNBA to be amplified, because I think that these women deserve so much more. Now on to Dave Portnoy, calling Angel Reese a classless piece of shit. Okay, we all heard about it. We've all seen the tweet. And we've also seen that Wallo and Gillie, who are on the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast, which is in partnership with Barstool Sports and Dave Portnoy, they came out and basically let it be known that they do not stand by Dave and his comments in any form, shape, or fashion. Now, Wallo, you should have learned how to pronounce the girl name. Her name is not Angela Reese. It's Angel Reese. As a matter of fact, her mom's name is even Angel Reese. So there's 2 generations of names that you messed up, bro. There's a lot of people that feel like they should be walking away from their partnership with Barstool Sports. And I just want to say it's never that easy, right? They said that $1 Million Worth of Game is only owned by 2 people, and that would be Gillie and Wallo, and that their partnership is with Barstool Sports, meaning that they're giving them the license to use the podcast, market the podcast, and all of that stuff. But the actual proprietors are Gillie and Wallo. And with that, a lot of people are saying y'all should be using that power to walk away from Barstool. Some people may not agree with Barstool's politics. A lot of people don't agree with Dave and his personal antics. However, You got to understand that in business, there's a lot of different things. There's a lot of nuances that go into things, right? Just because you don't agree with a person's statements or a person's jokes in the past or whatever insensitivities, that doesn't mean that the next person doesn't have a better relationship with that person. You know what I mean? Having the ability to actually be around a person, shake hands, get to see what they're like on a day-to-day basis, or at least more of a day-to-day basis than we ever will. Maybe they say, hey man, he's a good guy. He's treated us well. He's been cool. You know what I mean? Like, we ain't got no problem. He pays us on time. They've propelled our podcast up to the highest level that we could possibly get. Yo, we got a good thing going here, but we are going to come out and say, hey, that statement you made, we're not rocking with that, bro. A lot of people are mad at Gillie for coming out and saying, we love you, Dave, and that Wallo agreed with it. But personally, that may be how they feel. But there is also a such thing as tough love. Sometimes you got to let a person know that shit wasn't right. But that doesn't mean that you should disown a person. And in business, you can't just walk away from everything. Just because you decide that you mad today does not mean that you can end your contract. You get what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that you're just going to be like, we're going to take $1 million worth of game off y'all joint. No, that's not going to happen, because there could be a contract in place that says, nah, if you breach this contract, y'all can't take it nowhere else. Or y'all going to have to, if you decide to breach this contract, y'all going to have to sit out for a year or two without putting out the podcast. And if y'all try to create a new podcast called This, That, New or something like that, we're going to have an issue with that, because we put a non-compete in there that says you can't create a new podcast that rivals the one that y'all have with us. These are business things that happen, and you can't just decide because you're angry today that you can just terminate everything. It's not the way it goes. You're either going to have to pay a fine, you're going to have to give up your IP, or you're going to have to sit down and people are going to wonder what the hell happened to those people. And to be honest, I wouldn't expect nobody to make that type of move. Yes, it is interesting that, you know, the bigger companies are able to do that with us, the creators. They could distance themselves, they could shut down deals, they could do all that type of stuff, i.e. Adidas, Kanye. But unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast. And until some changes are made, until we stop signing contracts that put us in a position of less power, then that's just the way it is. And to be perfectly frank, there's a lot of us that actually go through the same thing on a much smaller scale. Every day that we report to a job that we hate, every day that we report to a place that we absolutely loathe, but we do it for the sake of the check. Y'all do the same shit, but then when somebody else that you perceive is famous or notable in the celebrity world, y'all expect them to function differently. No, they have the same stuff going on. Matter of fact, their lifestyle, although maybe, you know, elevated, maybe instead of having, you know, 60-inch TVs, maybe they got 120-inch TVs, maybe they got a theater in their crib. They have to make enough money to maintain whatever lifestyle that is. If they got a nicer car than you, they may have a bigger car payment. If they got a bigger, nicer house than you, that's more money that they got to put into maintenance. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they own their house and all of the repairs they got to put into it. They got to buy new refrigerators and fucking ovens and shit that ain't cheap. You know what I'm saying? So you can't just expect people to just not give a fuck about money because they have it, and they're not going to do what they need to do in order to keep it coming in. That's fucking foolish. So I think on one end, you know, I understand people's frustration, but on the other end, you also need to be a little bit realistic, a little bit logical about your expectations of people. You wouldn't even make the move that you're asking them to do. You basically want to see somebody do it because you don't have the courage to do it yourself in your life. Right? You want to live vicariously through that person that's bold enough to do it. But at the end of the day, the beef should not be with Gillie and Wallo, because they did not make the statement. So if you're angry at Dave Portnoy, then keep directing that anger at him. And again, even with your anger at him, don't let it diminish the fact that these young ladies just won the national mother effing championship. They did it their way. They did it with their phones in hand, and they got paid to do so with their NIL deals. The team was in concurrence with that. Let's talk about the fact that Angel Reese was in her first year with this team after transferring from Maryland and won the national mother effing championship. Let's talk about how the staff at LSU came to this team and immediately became champions after changing the regime, the head coach, and, you know what I'm saying, the social media team and all of that type of stuff. Like, they switched some things around and it worked. Let's give them the kudos, the respect, and the attention that they actually deserve in that element. I'm gonna go ahead and get off my soapbox, man. I just had to address a few of those things. Let me know what you guys think of this down below in the comments. Let me know if you're supporting Angel Reese or if you're opposing her, if you're team Caitlyn. I think all of them should be revered. She had an extremely great tournament, Caitlyn. So I'm not taking anything away from her, but shout out to Angel Reese, Flaw Jade, LSU Tigers, women's basketball, college basketball in general. I want to continue to see the growth, and I hope that they're able to take that attention and eventually bring that to the WNBA so that they can continue to be the stars that they are and exist in the light that they deserve. Again, I'm about to sign out, man. Be sure to like and share this video. If this is your first time seeing me on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit the post notification bell for all updates, and I will see you guys on the next one, all right? Much love and respect, y'all. Peace.